So we're in January of 2025, so that marks 10 years of this version of Machine. And I only say this version because I started the company in 2002. It was a motion graphics company at first, and I did that for a number of years. And then I got real burned out on that industry, and then decided to start this thing. So I just wanted to take a minute to kind of go over, I'm sure some of you have heard the history of the company, but I thought, it's 10 years. I thought it'd be a good time to kind of go through that real quick and maybe try to come up with some of the lessons that I learned through that process. So in 2014, I started volunteering at the Venice Art Walls, and this was what was remaining of the Venice Pavilion. Any LA writers would know what I'm talking about. So the roles of the person attending or, monitoring the walls was to sort of guide people. I guess what I would do is, like, someone would come up and they would have paint, and I would go up to them and say, "Hey, you're going to paint today?" And they'd say, "Yeah." And I would ask them what they're going to do. And it's like, are you going to do a piece? Are you going to just kind of fuck around? And then we would sort of determine where they're going to paint. So if they were going to do a piece or something, they would go on the main wall. If they were going to just kind of fuck around and do throwaways, I would direct them over to, say, like the pillars or the smaller walls or something like that. And so that's where kind of like the inspiration for Machine, this version of Machine started, was because while I was doing that, this was 2014. I was 40 years old at the time, and what I noticed was, I would a lot of times there was young people there, and when I would have these conversations with these young people, even though I was 40 years old and they were like teenagers, they were still listening to me, and I realized it was because there was a mutual respect between each other. We were both graffiti writers. And that immediately started getting me thinking that I have a responsibility to be a good influence on these kids. If they're listening to me, it's like it's an opportunity that I don't think a lot of middle-aged people have, as far as connecting to the youth in the way that graffiti writers do. Graffiti writers to other graffiti writers, regardless of the age that they are. So when I'm talking to these kids and they're actually listening to what I say, I'm like, shit, I really want to do this more. But at the time I was running my motion graphics company, so I could only be there so often. I was really busy with that other thing. So I was trying to think of, like, how can I create something that I can do my motion graphics company and also, have experiences like this. And that's where opening up the shop came in. It was like, if I open up a place that's like an art gallery where we can have art shows and different kinds of events, graffiti related events, and then also have it open every day so that the youngsters can come in and blackbook, they'd have a place where they can gather and kind of like meet each other, and I could meet them, and I could hopefully, be a positive influence on them, and maybe help share some of the rules of the game or some of the ways that we came up as the older generation. And so that's what I did. And at the time, I couldn't really afford to rent, a whole. I couldn't take on a whole nother expense, like renting a commercial space. That's just the rent alone, I think, was like, 20. What was it, like 25 grand a year or something like that. And I couldn't really afford it. So at the time I owned a house. And so what I did was I rented that house to a buddy of mine. And then I just moved into the back of this shop that I opened up. Well, it wasn't even a shop. It was just, so I'll just kind of explain what it was. Like, it was a 2,400 square foot, basically like a rectangular shaped, pretty much an empty place. Like all it was, in the very back, there was like basically like a toilet in the corner with like a small wall built around it. And then there was like this makeshift sink that basically had like a pipe coming out of the wall, like the spigot that you see on the outside of the house, and and it was just going into this makeshift sink, and the pipe was like rested on an old rusty coffee can. I'll try to find pictures and maybe I'll edit them in here. And anyway, so there's no heat, no hot water, no kitchen, no shower, no nothing, you know. So what I did was my dad and I built a wall halfway between it. So it was a 2,400 square foot building, and the front 1,200 square feet was machine, and then the back is I lived back there. And you know, I had my 4 dogs with me, and we just lived in the back. And in the winters, I would have a space heater for them. And, you know, in the summers, we just were hot as fuck because there's no amenities at all, you know. And I showered at the YMCA, did laundry at the laundromat and shit. Basically just went all in on this idea. And it was just a really loose idea, mainly just to have a space for people, graffiti writers, to gather and hopefully try to do something positive for the scene. And so over time it evolved into other things. And, you know, the events were going, we were doing them once a month, and, kids started coming in and asking, you know, hey, are you going to sell anything? And, we had plans to sell our spray paint brand that was coming out. I had created through what's called a private label. I had a company in the US that made spray paint. So I had them come up with a formula for, at the time, it was the only graffiti spray paint made in America. And I don't know if there even is a brand now. There's American brands, but they're not actually made in America. This one was made in America. So we intended to sell that, but that was all as far as like, and we weren't even making any money on that really. It was, or it was just me. I was by myself up until, you know, a little while. I had some help, and then, you know, it's grown into, you know, bringing in more team members and stuff. So we started selling like little markers and shit here and there. And, you know, eventually we just kept adding more stuff. Some kids asked about slaps, and I didn't think much of it, but then another kid asked about slaps. So I was like, I know how to screen print. So I made, a fucking, like, I think of it like a reverse air hockey table. Like I just had a piece of wood that I framed, and drilled a bunch of little holes in it, and then hooked up a shop vac to it. So when you turn the shop vac on, it sucked the sheet down. And so I was printing stickers just in the back of the shop in the same area that I lived in. And, you know, just sort of kept growing from there. And the events started getting bigger, and we started gaining a little more people started knowing who we were. And, you know, things just they started, you know, just kept growing. And, I was looking at some videos today when I was thinking about this, because I'm like, you know, 10 years, we should come up with something to do. And I realized, like, you know, it was like there was a lot of challenges, you know, when 2020 happened and all the COVID shit, and then there was these riots and all this shit that was happening right near the spot. So we were sort of closed down to a certain degree. We never really, I mean, we fully closed down for like, I don't know, it was like a week or 2 weeks maybe. And then we started doing pickup orders. So we weren't really fully closed. We just couldn't have people in. So we focused on the business, and we grew quite a bit during that time because I was really focused on getting better at running a business. You know, I had been doing this for a few years now, and, you know, I didn't know anything about retail or shipping or, you know, on e-commerce or any of that stuff. So I was learning as I went, and I wasn't doing the best job, you know, like I was focused on a whole bunch of different things. So I wasn't doing the best job at running the business and, you know, leading a team. I wasn't doing a very good job at all of that stuff. So I wasn't really providing the, experience that I felt like the graffiti culture deserved in terms of the graff shop side of things. I mean, we were doing all these events. People were really enjoying the events. So I think we were doing those right, but I was not running the business right. And so around 2020 is when I started really getting into personal development. 2019, I was reading and stuff. And that's when I started taking the business much more seriously. And we started growing fairly rapidly. Between 2019 and 2020, we grew 350%. The next year, we grew 100%. And it's been growing ever since. And so I feel like we started getting better at running the business. And one of the lessons I learned was, consistency and how you treat your customers. Like anybody, I could tend to get pissed off, and like I know there was some times where maybe like I didn't handle things properly and shit like that. But one of the bigger things I think what any kind of like business owner should understand is like, when you start a business, you're essentially making an obligation to anybody that's going to spend money with you. So it doesn't matter if you're having a hard time. It doesn't matter if you're a one-man show or if you don't know how to do all of these things. If somebody gives you money, all that stuff is not that customer's problem, and you have to deliver on your promise. And so I learned that lesson a little bit late. Not that I always delivered, but like sometimes it was late. And like, especially with stickers, it was like, I was printing them by hand. So it was a pain in the ass process, printing them by hand, cutting them by hand and all that stuff. And so as that product gained popularity, instead of scaling, I extended the lead time. So at one point it was like, it used to be, I can't remember what the turnaround time was in the beginning, but I think it was like, I want to say it was a few days. I don't remember exactly, but it was like 3 or 4 days or something like that. And then it became a week, and then it became 2 weeks. So a customer would order stickers and I'd be like, look, it's going to take 2 weeks, because a lot of times I was there by myself. And so the only time I could print was either before hours or after hours. So then I was changing the hours. I was doing all this shit that like I would never in a million years do now. It's like the customer doesn't give a shit if you're there by yourself. The customer doesn't give a shit if, it's hard to to fulfill your obligations. Like, they gave you money. You said you would give them this product. And, I felt like I was kind of like not doing that right. So anyway, as we started to grow and I started getting better at the business end of things, the focus really shifted to how do we provide the absolute best experience for customers possible. So I started hiring people. I hired customer support help so that like emails got answered fast. I bought equipment so that the stickers could be turned around much faster. So now it's very rare that things are late because of something that we did. Most of the time when things are late, it's because the shit got lost in the carriers and stuff, but we still take care of that anyway. And so I wish I had learned that lesson earlier, because I think we would be a lot further along had I taken that end of things seriously. And like I said, I've never screwed anybody over and like not sent their products. It's just, it took longer than it should have. And anyway, so, we kept scaling, we kept growing and doing all these things. And then I tried to have 2 locations, one in Vegas and one in San Pedro, and that didn't work. I was not, it just wasn't, it wasn't in the cards. Like, attention was too split between the 2 places. And then I made the decision to just move everything to Vegas. And, Vegas has been good, but it's also very challenging. We ran, I don't even know how many events. We were doing them every month pretty consistently for years. And we barely had any problems with people tagging and, with beef and any of that kind of stuff. And like, we haven't been in Vegas for very long, I think 3 years now. And we've been seeing all kinds of weird little issues, people burning the spot, writing on the neighbor's shit, writing on in our parking lot, and beefing with each other in the shop and things like that. So we're trying to overcome these challenges, but I got on this rant, I don't know if it's a rant, but more of a rambling, but I was talking about how I was watching videos, and I feel like, one one thing that I realized today, and I have been thinking about this, but like it really hit me hard today when I was watching all these videos of these events. And if you want to see those, if you go to the Machine Studio YouTube, if you scroll down, there's an events playlist. If you click on the playlist, there's all kinds of videos dating back to 2016 of a bunch of events. And so when I was rewatching those videos, and I was even rewatching some of the raw footage, I came to this realization that like for years, we haven't been creating memories like we used to. You know, we used to have these events that, you know, people remembered and that I remembered. I would video them, and we had like graffiti battles. We had breakdancing battles. We had a bunch of art shows, all these different kinds of art shows with lots of graffiti writers, lots of well-known graffiti writers. And, you know, those memories are burned into my mind, and I know that they're burned into other people's minds because every so often somebody will comment on one of the videos that I make and will say, you know, I miss the Pedro shows and I miss the Pedro location. And so do I. Like, I wish that stuff was still happening. And so when I came to that realization today, like I've been thinking about doing events again, but I've been nervous about all the problems that come along with events. But one of the things that hit me hard today was not creating memories like we used to. And, you know, it's like, I was thinking about this, and I don't remember where I read this, but somebody was talking about how, well, there's like a few things, like when you get older, it feels like time goes by faster. And Alex Hormozy talks about one of the reasons for that is like, say when you're 10 years old, a year is 1/10 of your whole life. But when you're 50, a year is like not really that much time compared to your whole life. But one of the things that I heard somebody say was another reason why time feels like it passes faster as you get older is because you settle into routines and you're not creating these memorable experiences. And so, for example, like if you're driving to work every day, you tend to start taking the same route to work every day so that nothing stands out. And they talked about sort of like how your mind works and how it stores memories. If you do the same thing over and over and over again, then you don't really remember each of those times. You know, you don't remember if nothing happens between the time you left the house and got to work and it was pretty much an uneventful trip. All of those memories of you driving to work sort of blend together and sort of form like this mashup of sort of memories that creates almost like one experience. So it's almost like you lose, I don't know if I'm explaining this right, but this is how I understand it, but it's almost like you lose a lot of that time because you don't remember any of it. And so they say like, do little things like take a different route to work, or like even something stupid like, well, I don't even know if it's stupid. It's probably actually very valuable, but like you always brush your teeth the same way. Most of us, I'm assuming. And they said, try brushing your teeth with your left hand. And it's a whole different experience, you know? And so back to what I was talking about, like we're sort of doing the same shit day in and day out. We're printing stickers. We're doing all these kind of things, but we're not having these standout memories. We're not having these events. We're not having these gatherings where all of this stuff can happen. These cool black book sessions and, you know, these battles and just meeting different people and all these kind of things, that these memories aren't being created because we're sort of like doing the same every day. We open up the shop, you know, we help customers. I'm sure the people running the counters, they create little memories here and there because they get to meet different people. But as far as for me, it's the same shit every day. You know, I'm making content every day. I'm posting every day. I'm checking in with the team. I'm making the artwork for slap tags. It's basically like the same thing. So every day is probably in my mind, as far as how it's being stored, is just a mashup of years of experiences that don't really feel like years anymore. And so I'm really coming to the realization, and it kind of like put me in a little bit of a depressed state because I was like, fuck, man, we have to get back to that, because when I was watching those videos and I was seeing all these faces of people that I used to interact with regularly, and I'd have these great conversations with these people, and I haven't seen them for years now because we don't do that stuff anymore. Obviously, we're in a different state, but we can be creating all of those memories here. And at the same time, people come through Vegas all the time. So, we have to figure out a way to just make that happen again. And even for people like that aren't here, just to be able to watch those videos and just see those things happening, I think it's important. And I really do need to get back onto that. So I got into something else that I didn't intend, but I think that's all right. How long have we been talking here? We were at, 20 minutes. I think I probably can wrap it up. I think the stuff I was talking about with the memories, that can apply to anybody. I think I've been trying to incorporate different things, like little things, just trying to experiment with different ways of going to work. And, even like you settle into routines with like food and all these kind of things. So like, I'll just leave it at like, just try to mix it up. I think it's very valuable to try to at least create some memories. And then if you're the type of person, I'm not really the kind of like travel or anything, but if you're the type of person that does these kind of things, I would encourage you to make sure you're creating a lot of memories, because that's all you have at the end of the day. I mean, you have this very second and then the shit that you remember. So hopefully you're creating those things. For those of you that have been around, or, actually for everyone that's listening, or everyone that's like familiar with the company or been to any of our shows or participated in any way, even leaving comments or liking stuff, sending me messages, all of that stuff. Like, I can't even tell you how much I appreciate it. Even though we're 10 years in, like, I just still feel like we haven't even gotten started. I'm really looking forward to what's coming in the future. And, I just really appreciate all of you for being a part of this. Yeah, I don't know. We got a long way to go, so we'll see what happens. Thank you for listening. Thank you for tuning in. I really appreciate you guys. And here's to the next 10 years. All right.
Appreciate each and every one of you guys who are supporting the cause and continue to spread the love. And stay up.